a capitalist system, but we don't want to exploit anybody. We don't want to be exploited, and we don't want to exploit anybody.
Ain't nobody gonna do it for us. There's nobody outside of yourself, nobody outside of ourselves that's going to do this work for us. We have to put in that real work.
Because the better you are at exploiting people, the more successful you are within capitalism.
We want to say salute to all our political prisoners, our POWs, our elder comrades in exile.
The satisfaction we need as a people only comes through liberation and independence.
Because we're not just building for self, we're building for the family, because the family is broken. We're building for the community is broken. The nation is broken. The race is under attack. We are in a state of emergency.
If you could see what I see, our community and unity, no frustration from brutality, with our black nation, a reality.
This is my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective, my perspective, it's my perspective.
And welcome everybody to the New African Perspective, the show that is dedicated to the liberation of new African people. I'm your host, Brother Prophecy, but I'm not by myself. And you probably should have figured that out by now, because every week I got to ride with me the strong, the powerful, the beautiful, intellectual President and Vice President of the Republic of New Africa. And they are none other than
Mama Ayo, free the land.
And we are a part of something called the New African Independence Movement. That's where we struggle, fight, and do everything we can to bring about our own land, independence, self-determination, reparation, and we create an economic system that ain't trying to get over on people, trying to build everybody up. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, for the last few months, we've been just powering through these 15 creed, these new African creeds, and we're right at the end of the creed, y'all. How do we end that creed off?
We all say this together, so I think we need to say it together.
Okay. All right. Try to coordinate this. Ready? All right. Now.
And freely
of my
own will. I pledge this creed
for the sake
of freedom for my people
and a
better world.
On pain of disgrace and
banishment.
If I prove false.
I
am no longer
deaf,
dumb, or blind. I am by the inspiration of our ancestors and the grace of our Creator, a new African.
Free the land, free the
land, and free the land.
Okay, all right. So any perspectives of why do we end the creed like that?
Well, it's to seal it all in. Now, freely and of my own will, like you're saying, this is what my will is. I am agreeing to all of the above 15. Now, freely and of my own will, I pledge this for the sake of freedom for my people in a better world. And you're saying, if I prove false, hey, I understood I'm going to be banished. You know what I mean? And I'm saying this in the name of my ancestors, in front of the ancestors, in front of the Creator. This is what's happening. You know? So it's just filling it all in. You know, this is an oath. This is our life. This is our blood responsibility to fight for our liberation, to free the land, and to build these beautiful, wonderful institutions that are rooted in our rooted in righteousness and rooted in our principles. So, just seals it all up.
Definitely. You got anything you want to add to that, Mama Ayo?
I definitely am in total agreement. It's almost as if you are and particularly when we say this particular creed every day upon rising, along with your affirmations for the day, it is something that we're working on. Remember, all the time we're talking about personal self-growth. So once you've already talked about these 15 items from the creed, you are literally saying to the community, to yourself, to all around you that you're pledging this creed. The reason why you're pledging this creed is to help uplift, to help build, and you are also allowing the community in which you said you are part of, to make sure that you're held accountable. And that if you're not, remember, I think one of the hardest things that we can do in human history is to disgrace and to banish, be banished from the community. And because that's a total humiliation and everything that comes with it. So, if you say this creed, you live by this creed, you've agreed that you're a conscious citizen of the Republic of New Africa, you already know it's already telling you these are the consequences for immoral, illogical, traitorous behaviors, particularly after you have incorporated, you say that you've incorporated all of the 15 items of the creed. And it's allowing yourself personally. I'm being held accountable, and I'm also holding others accountable if we're in this fight together. And I yield.
So basically, if I'm understanding it correctly, we end the creed off with a commitment to the prior 15 principles in which we just went over, recited. And we're saying we're willing to accept the consequences if I do not uphold myself to the standards in which we've set by these creeds. That's what I'm talking about. Sounds like a winning formula for liberation. But Sama, what we got on the tap for the show today?
Well, look, y'all, this is a special show because tomorrow is the New African New Year, which is marked by the assassination of Malcolm X. All right, so February 21st, Malcolm X was assassinated. That marks the New African New Year. So it was 57 AD after the death of Malcolm. Now we're going to moving into 8 ADM. So, of course, today in our Black Power File, we have to honor the Honorable Malcolm X for sure, And then in the Cadre Corner, we'll be going over By Any Means Necessary, which is also by Malcolm X. And because, in the spirit of Malcolm X and everything that he stood for and everything that pushes us forward, we are going to be discussing as our main topic for today, exercise human right of self-determination. What is that? What does it look like? Yeah, but first, what do we have in the news? I know it's plenty.
Yeah. There always is.
I just pulled up a couple of things that we wanted to go over. So in Ohio, this place called Brexton, Ohio, at Brexton Middle School, there are students who are protesting something that happened during a Black History program. So apparently during this Black History program, right after they had, I guess they were looking at a film or something, and they displayed like a Black History fact. Immediately following this Black History fact, there was an image of an ape eating a watermelon. Black History program. This is at Braxton Middle School in Braxton, Ohio. Now it's about only 8% Black, majority white school. Of course, students were offended. The Black students were offended. The parents were offended. They're threatening lawsuits. Now, apparently, there's actually a teacher that was responsible for this. So what they did, they put the teacher on administrative leave, and then they allowed the teacher to retire. So they didn't fire the teacher. They put him on leave, and they allowed them to retire, and then they are protecting the teacher because they will not release the name of this individual. So there's a pretty good chance that this individual will just go to another school where they will probably be teaching even more Black children, and such and such. So y'all have any response to this particular story? Black History program, Black teacher puts a overtly racist image in the midst of a Black, right after a Black History fact. Yeah, any comment on this?
And you said it was a white teacher?
Yeah, it's a white teacher. Apparently, it's obviously a white teacher who did this, and but we don't know who the white teacher is because they're protecting them, like they did that white police officer down in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. White people do something wrong or racist, they just tend to protect them.
I mean, but this is the system that protects race. Is built upon racism, white supremacy. So it's going to protect racism and white supremacy. Like, this is, y'all, we have to come to expect this, you know. I know it's kind of difficult for us to come to terms that this is what it is, but this is what it is. And if we don't want to be like this anymore, all of these institutions that uphold this particular system, you're going to run into some problems. You're going to run into some issues just like so. So it'll be who of us to take full responsibility for our future, our children's future, and build our own institutions. Send your children to already existing African-centered schools if we don't want to run into these issues, because that's what happens in these issues. There's so much stuff that does not get reported. You know, how many things did we witness that did not make the news in school? I mean, you know, this is what we face on a daily basis when we are interacting and involved with these particular institutions that uphold this wicked system. This is what it is.
I definitely agree with you, Brother Prophecy and Sister Sa. I always have this phrase running around in my head. How long, Mother Father God? How long do I and I have to bear witness to daily, monthly, minute by minute examples of a system that does not seek to do any of us any good? Always looking for the stereotypes that you feed to your children and that you believe when you close the doors to your homes. You could be the most liberal, you could be the most far left, the far right. It doesn't make a difference. The attitude and the beliefs of what you have been taught or what you think you know about the descendants of enslaved Africans is it's amazing. I mean, first of all, anatomically and genetically, the first human being who's Homo sapiens sapien, who came upright, is the African, is the melanated man. So who are you talking about? It can't be the genetically recessive dominant race. You got to be talking about the genetically recessive mutant, the mutant who came through those stages, who came through the Neanderthal and the blah 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 blah. So I don't understand. I'm always very, very amused and very, very skeptical about these images that people talk about. We already talked last week about the benefits of watermelon. So why would you even put that? Of course, watermelon is one of the best fruits for men and women. It is one of the best. So when you put those images, it is to, what we call throw shade. You can't throw shade because you can, especially when you have people who negate that. So obviously, we're in a situation here in the school system. Our children are the inferior, or I should say, they are the minority. They are the minority, and this is what you and I have had to put up with in the school system, and this is what we send our children to bear witness to. And who wants to get mad? I mean, first of all, remember, it is the parents who are going to put you in a so-called better school. Better than what? better than what? For you to bear witness to being insulted about something that's supposed to be part of history anyway? Black history is American history. It is American history because we built this mother off of the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And I bet you not one parent got up and started talking facts and shut that ish down because they don't know. They don't have the knowledge and the power. So now you're putting it out for us to listen to what? Huh? What were you expecting? What were you expecting in that particular school system? Some kind of shade was going to be thrown unless the person who put on the Black History program looked like you and I. I yield.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in agreement, 1,000%. I mean, it's Sama I always talks about, to just about have the same answer to just about every last one of these stories. It's like what you expect. We're in the empire, and that's kind of the answer to all of it. It's like we have historical evidence. If you go to Chancellor Williams' book, Destruction of Black Civilization,
Right.
he says you have over 5,000 years of historical evidence of who European people are, who white people are to us, and how they have treated us.
Exactly.
In this country, we have over 500 years of historical documented evidence that they documented themselves. So if we have all of this evidence, if we're just looking at science, looking at this from a scientific perspective, we have centuries, millenniums of individuals who have brutalized us, oppressed us, mistreated us, lied on us, stole our history, every kind of crime against humanity that you can name and even make up, and you still won't have all of them down. They've done this to us. So why do we expect them to do anything different when we bring our children to their systems of miseducation? If we understand that their system was founded on the brutality, exploitation, and oppression of our ancestors, and this fuels and runs their systems,
Absolutely.
then their educational system is only going to serve to continue that system. Is only going to educate you so you can go out in the world and perpetuate it. It's not going to educate you in a real meaningful way that you can go out and build for yourself and do for yourself and create for yourself. Because when we do these things, that marks the end of their system, because their system is completely dependent on the exploitation of us. So, a deer would never go to a lion to get an education. If you do that, the lion's gonna be like, okay, this is what you do. You go out and tell all these other deers, whenever you see us coming, just lay down, and we're gonna give you a nice little kiss on the neck. That's what they're gonna teach you.
Right.
So
I mean, oh, go ahead. I mean,
no, I'm finished.
And don't the end of such a system sound so beautiful and so good? Don't that? Now that makes me smile. That makes me very, very, very happy. All we would have to do is build our own institution, create our own curriculum that's tailored to. I mean, this is God's work, y'all. Come now.
and what I really regret about the Black History program is that little bitty nuances like that, little bitty things that our children are expecting greatness. They are really looking forward to a program. They will never forget that image. They're never going to forget that. Their parents are going to have to go back and explain why that, because you do have to explain. And I'm hoping, and it is my prayer for that 8% of the new Africans who are in that school system, that each family goes back and has a courageous conversation. Because at this particular point right here is when our children have to be told the truth. Tell the children the truth, that there are two societies. You are there, and you constantly let them know you are great, you are beautiful, you are more intelligent, you are as intelligent, and you can stand toe to toe to anybody in this world, because you deserve it. It is your birthright and your legacy. So that's what I'm most concerned about, because that is what we call a trauma. It is a trauma because it was a racial slur. It was a racial imprint. And trust me, there are going to be some residuals from just that flashing of a gorilla with a watermelon, eating a watermelon. Trust me. Trust me. It is.
Yeah, I mean, if you just think about the psychological trauma that you would have to experience, being you're only 8% of this school population, so there's an uncomfortableness within that because you're different from everybody else, and then you go to a program that is supposed to be about you, about your history, for once, when you have the whole year telling you how great these white people are, and then they flash derogatory images to you, and it's done by somebody who is in power, somebody who is teaching you, somebody you're supposed to be looking up to for guidance. So yeah, it just serves to reinforce all of the negative things that we have been told for the last 400 or 500 years in this country. That's why if you have to put your children in public schools, after school you have to have a separate school by itself, because you can't you have to re-indoctrinate your children from and undo all of the brainwashing and the negative images that this school system will bombard us with. So yeah, I want to give a big shout out to people checking in on Facebook. I see my brother Bo Monty, and how you doing, Bo Monty? How you doing, brother? Minister of Information of the PGRNA. And we got brother El Abdul Muhammad. How you doing from California?
Oh, be the land, Baba.
Of course, Melly Queen is out there sharing the show, doing her thing, and she always do.
All right, comrade.
So what's up? Thank you. Thank everybody for checking in. But we move back to this next story. So probably heard about, or maybe you haven't. There's these black farmers out in Colorado, black ranchers from Houston, Texas, had to move from Texas because of a hurricane. But they purchased 1,000 acres of land on a ranch in Colorado, created something called, I think it's like Freedom Acres. And they wanted to use this to educate our people on farming, where food actually comes from. Beautiful thing, because we understand that land is the foundation of freedom, and apparently they understand that too. But everybody didn't like that. So who is this? This is Courtney and Nicole Mallon. Like I said, bought 1,000 acres of land in Colorado, created their ranch there. And since they have been there in 2020, they have been terrorized by their white neighbors. Vandalism, white neighbors have vandalized their property. They have read the word nigger on their property. They have murdered, killed, mutilated much of their livestock. They drive around slowly, staring at them, trying to intimidate them. And the list goes on and on and on. And I'm going to try to see if I can look up this story, and so I can share the story with you all. Hold on. I should have had this already.
I've definitely heard that story.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a call out. Well, I feel like you should have had those 1,000 acres.
Yep.
To the bottom of
a
controversy in El Paso County involving a black rancher claiming to be terrorized by his white neighbors and others in the predominantly white neighborhood.
The allegations involve trespassing, vandalism, racial slurs, brandishing weapons, and animal cruelty. And the story taking another twist yesterday when that rancher was arrested.
Fox 31's Talia Cunningham's been working this story for weeks now, joins us now with what she's been learning from both sides. Tonight, Talia.
Well, Erica, Jeremy, Courtney Mallory and his wife, Nicole, were displaced in Hurricane Harvey, moving to El Paso County to start a new life. So their American dream quickly turned into a nightmare for them, telling me they've been harassed, chased, had their animals mutilated, and even more. Things escalating in recent weeks as they become more vocal online. So I talked to Courtney about 3 weeks ago before he was arrested, and he told me that he feared for his life. Now, we do want to warn you at home that some of this content may be considered graphic.
I'm being arrested.
Early Monday morning, Courtney Mallory was taken into custody. Farming while black in America. The rancher's story, one that's taken over social media.
We don't want to become a hashtag.
Nicole, a Marine, and her husband bought Freedom Acres Ranch in 2020. The couple claiming they face repeated acts of domestic terrorism by white residents on their own property. They say their dogs have been poisoned. Numerous farm animals have been slaughtered and gutted. Residents have been trespassing on their land, running over fence posts, burning their Black Lives Matter flags, spray painting racial slurs on their land, even waving guns at them. Photos show unknown vehicles blocking the couple's property and parking on their land. Even social media posts inquiring about pitchforks and fire sticks.
Lynching us, bringing a lynching mob, having a public hanging, fire. They wanted to lock us in and set us ablaze.
Mallory said they've called the sheriff's office countless times over the last 2 years, but have gotten no action or thorough investigations.
It is in fact El Paso County Sheriff's Office that is the main reason that we do not feel safe on our property.
The sheriff's office says they've investigated 19 different complaints and have responded to over 170 calls for service at Freedom Acres. In a statement, they claim the office vehemently denies all these allegations.
We're watching. The world is watching. Get it right.
Now a coalition pushing for social justice and the couple's safety, including the NAACP.
That's ridiculous. At the end of the day, law enforcement should show up for everyone.
The National Association of Real Estate Brokers.
This is a direct violation of the Fair Housing Act.
And the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Colorado Holiday Commission.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Courtney was arrested yesterday, charged with stalking, petty theft, and tampering with the utility meter. His wife charged with the same crimes. Now she paid a $2,000 bond and was released. However, Courtney was not.
It looks like a bait and switch.
Activists and concerned citizens demanding answers last night, gathering at the detention center, conducting their own welfare check. Courtney appeared before a judge today, and his bond was increased to $6,000 and was paid for by the NAACP. He should be out of jail at this hour. And I actually just received a text. Courtney is, in fact, out of jail tonight. We've also learned that his neighbor was arrested last year for violating a restraining order that he took out against her. And surprisingly, those same neighbors filed a restraining order this morning against Courtney. There's a lot of ongoing and previous protective orders out at this time between these two neighbors. Of course, this is a story we will continue to follow right here on Fox 30.
All right. So, yeah, there it is. Landowners being terrorized by the white neighbors who apparently don't want Black people on their land. And the police department, instead of helping them, they are perpetuating the situation, and he ends up getting arrested. Y'all have any thoughts on this particular story?
Okay, so this is case in point, right? This is the reason why, and we've learned from history. That's the reason why we study history. When we study all of the Black townships, with the Tulsas, the Rosewoods, all the ones that have been destroyed from white mobs, right? Because our lack of organized army, okay? If we gonna build something, we gotta make sure we can protect it, okay? Now, what that look like, that's on us. Because we know we should be respecting the seen and the unseen, right? But whatever we build, we surely have to be able to protect it. Okay? Period. This is another case because they're gonna keep doing the same thing. History is going to repeat no matter what. Anytime we build anything that's beautiful and successful, that's 1,000 acres. A lot can happen with 1,000 acres. A whole lot can happen on 1,000 acres. Yes, and these are still these same crackers. Okay, still the same crackers. They still doing the same stuff. Don't this story sound so familiar? Don't you feel like you done heard this story so many times? Huh? Because these are the same folks, same people. So if we gonna build something, if we gonna build anything on the land, all these institutions that we talk about, we got to be able to protect it. This is proof. This is proof. Okay, We cannot keep repeating the same cycle, because that's all it's going to do is just repeat the same cycle.
Definitely. Ayo, you have any comments on this?
So many mixed feelings because, of course, you have the right, just like any other human being on this earth, to live where you want to live and to purchase land where you want to purchase. But just knowing the state of how we grew up in America, first of all, you did your investigations. You were able to purchase. I don't know those details, but you planted yourself in the middle of a community that there is nobody else in that community, barely, that looks like you. And it's been hostile since they figured out who owned the land and who is on the land. And you're out there with just you and your wife. You didn't bring other families. I'm just painting a scenario, guys, because as Sister Sa said, you didn't bring your protection. You bought the okie doke that you have the right to be in America free to do what you want to do in America. In, where are you, Colorado? Really? And now it's become an issue. You're fearing for your lives because remember, this racism is systemic. The police are part of the system. Where's your backup? Now you got to call for what? You got to call for who? So on one hand, I am very, very angry that we have to go through this in 2023 just because you want to be a farmer, a Black farmer. On the other hand, I'm saying, why is you in Colorado? Why are you there with no other folks around? What you finna do with 1,000 acres and you don't got no help?
Well, in defense, how difficult it is to get, they probably started with about 20 families, but they was the only ones that was ready to make it happen. Okay. And that happens a lot because we be bailing out on each other, but you see what happens when we bail out on each other. Okay. And I'm going to say that because I done seen it too many times. We bail out on each other. Then folks don't have no backup. They don't got no, trying to make something happen, but not well thought out. Huh? Because you're supposed to have your own intel.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. It's been several times that I've heard of individuals trying to start a collective, cooperative, living space, and they bought several acres of land, and it was multiple families, and then slowly one dropped out, another dropped out, and by the time it's time to pull the trigger, you got 1 or 2 families left. So I don't know if that is the case with this, but it very well could have been. But I mean, either way the situation is, I mean, the lesson to be learned is like Sama said, when you build something, you got to be prepared to defend it. And you only have to be prepared to defend it because we live in a white supremacist country. Absolutely. If America was what it said it was, if America wasn't this hypocrisy, colonialism, this pretending to be land of the free, home of the brave, then we could just do like the brother was trying to do. The brother and sister were trying to do. Purchase your land, create something that is beautiful and beneficial to your people, and thrive off of it. But that's not the reality because America is hypocrisy. Like our brother Malcolm said, democracy is hypocrisy in America. That is not existent. We've been lied to, bamboozled, as Mama Ayo said. The American dream is not a dream for us. It's a nightmare. And the only way it can be a dream is we got to be asleep in order to think that it's true. So, I'm with you. I'm going to go to a comment real quick. Brother Freedom Power, how you doing, brother? This is one of millions of examples why we need to be as far away from these people as possible in a safe, sovereign nation of our own. Ain't nobody got time to be fighting these racist hatred and bigotry of these rabid demon animals, demonic animals. Life's too short. Right on, President Sama. So yeah, so I'm with you, comrade.
And
Definitely.
I certainly agree. That's my question. I mean, I know your people have come from the South in one form or fashion. You know, in their defense, I'm sure everybody wants to live the American dream, and you have the resources to purchase 1,000 acres. You individually as a couple have the resources to purchase 1,000 acres, and that is a wonderful thing. However, you've been there 3 years now, and all you've done is caught hell from the beginning, and to the point where, according to the story, they were literally helping out their neighbors, their white neighbors, during the pandemic. And this is their reward. This is so typically what people face. A lot of times, one of the things that we have to understand is the petty bourgeoisie wants to stay away from the community. They're buying that American dream. They want to be away from their people. They want to be affluent. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes it backfires, and we have to be ready for that. Planning is critical. We have to test the environment. I mean, you and I know we've just been through towns, and you the only little ink spot there. You better not stay there too long, because it's a sundown town. I just want us to be realistic. What am I going to look like going into a place and there ain't no other people that look like me? Yeah, I'm just asking. I'm asking.
And you know, I get it. That piece of land was probably a great deal. You understand what I'm saying? You got to take all things into consideration, like Mama Ayo said. You know, you understand what I'm saying? If you're going to move into a place like that, you better know all your intel before you move into a place like that. So it's already, look, you already got folks looking in places folks don't even know you looking. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's the only way I suggest that, period, is if you know you can cover yourself on all around you. You done did your research, you know all the folks that live on that's surrounding you and beyond. Like, you done did some research, and you know who's who and what their habits are. That's the only way I can even look at that as being a good decision.
Yes, because at the end of the day, when we leave, when the NAACP leaves, when the soldiers that have come down leave, because they've had to put out a mass appeal to send money so that the soldiers that do come down to help defend and protect their property can exist, can stay, can be fed, housed, sheltered, with water and stuff. At the end of the day, when they leave, isn't you finna face the same issue? I yield.
Yep, definitely. Agreed 1,000%. But you know, anyway, moving on. So we got a Black Power file a Cadre Corner coming up next. It's By Any Means Necessary. Hey, we'll be right back right after this, I think. This is the New Afrikan Perspective. Free the land, y'all. Free the land.
Our communities are under attack. Attacked by both internal and external enemy. Crime in our community. Police brutality. We can continue to complain about the problem. Stop complaining. Or we can actually do something about it. Let's do something, y'all. Join us February 25th in Memphis, Tennessee at the McFarland Community Center as we work together to take back our community. We're kicking things off at 1:00 p.m. with a short Black History program. We're going to entertain, educate, and shine the spotlight on some of our brightest youth. Then it's time to get down to business with a community panel discussion. We're dealing with the topic of how can we keep our community safe from both internal and external threats. That's Saturday, February 25th in Memphis, Tennessee at the McFarland Community Center, 4955 Cottonwood Road. Let's stop talking about the problem and start being about the solution.
Study the writings, speeches, documents of our freedom fighters in order to free our neo-colonialized minds. This is the Cadre Corner.
Yo, take it away.
Well, today, we want to pause for a moment to actually remember and to honor our ancestor, Malcolm X, Omowale El Haj Malik El Shabazz. And we're going to talk a little bit about another of his writings. Of course, these are a lot of his speeches that he put together, and it is entitled By Any Means Necessary, Malcolm X. And I just was remembering some of the items in this book. It's a series of speeches, a series of occurrences, has a lot of black and white pictures that's included in the book. But I just happened to open up to the page where he talks a little bit about the founding of the OAAU. And he gives a historical perspective.
Organization or create a situation where the young people.
I'm sorry, you keep on, Ayo.
And no, he talks about how he was able to, he went to Africa before, and he went this time on his own, just representing his own particular mosque and organization. And when he came back, he let his constituency know that it is important that they form the Organization of Afro-American Unity in order to tie the liberation movement with our brothers and sisters on the continent. And one of the things that he talks about is that one of the things that is necessary is that the motto of the OAAU was, of course, we want freedom by any means necessary. We want justice by any means necessary. When we want equality by any means necessary, because he felt that in 1964, 1964, that Black people, particularly in America, were not getting any of those things. And he wanted to focus his organization in Harlem, started off there first because it was the highest concentration of Black people, he felt at the time in that area, and in the U.S. period. So it was a lot of different strategizing that he put into this particular document. And he talks about it. He talks about, we hereby establish that we're going to organize ourselves under this entity, that we're going to have our self-defense, since self-defense is self-preservation at that time, because it is the first law of nature is self-preservation. So particularly knowing what Black people had to experience during that time, self-defense was critical. And he says that also in this, just a little bit of reading, that our children are being criminally shortchanged in the public school system of America, criminally. And that speaks to what you brought to the forefront, Brother Prophecy, about having a Black History program and having to be insulted and ridiculed at a program that's supposed to be about us. So again, family, definitely purchase a copy of By Any Means Necessary, because it's really a compilation of a few of his speeches and circumstances that led to making these different speeches in different venues, as well as some really wonderful black and white photographs. And before we start our topic, I'll just read a brief quote from Malcolm later, because he has so many gems. And with that, by any means necessary, Malcolm X.
Okay, by any means necessary. Do we know where we can get a copy of this?
Well, usually you're going to have to definitely go into thrift books, Alibris, Amazon, because a lot of books like these we don't find in the secondhand stores, y'all. So we have to begin to order them. And of course, if there is a local African-centered bookstore in your area, please do pick this book up, and ask your children to read it as a family, a book club, a collective, because every word, every message is they're pearls, and they're really, really. We like to ask ourselves the same things that they were talking about in 1964, 1965, all the way up. Do they still have relevance today? And we all have to ask ourselves that question. Has it changed? Did anything happen except our leaders get assassinated because they're calling for us to rise up and to be who we are? Yes, tomorrow will be the anniversary of the assassination of our founding father of this nation. And if you know anything about the Republic of New Africa, you know the Obadelis and other people were in this organization, as well as his wife, El Haj Malik, Betty Shabazz. And from there came into the being of the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa. So, yeah, founding father. Absolutely. Absolutely. And with that, I yield.
Okay.
Definitely. So pick that up by any means necessary. You get an opportunity, do a little Google search or YouTube search and just check out some of Brother Malcolm's speeches, and you will realize very soon that what he was talking about back in the early 60s is so relevant today, especially when he talks about police brutality. But Malcolm also talked about how we should stop trying to get civil rights, and we should be focused on gaining human rights, because our struggle is a human rights. Civil rights is something that the government give you, and they give it to you, they can take it away. But human rights is something that we were born with. And with that leads us to our topic, the human right of self-determination. What's that all about? Is that something that we should even be worried about, or should we be concerned about, or should we be just trying to, be a part of this system? Matter of fact, what does that mean? Let's start out with that. What does that mean? The human right to self-determination. I'm gonna open that up with that question.
Well, it adds on to what we were talking about last week. Last week we talked about Black on Black love, right? And a part of loving yourself, you know what's best for yourself when you love yourself. You know exactly what's best for yourself. And so all self-determination is literally our birthright. It's a part of human rights, yes, but it's our birthright to be able to live our life on our own land by our own terms, right? And within the Republic of New Africa, of course, we have said, look, we are looking at the 5 states south. That's what we're claiming. That's minimal. That's not limited to, okay? Because in our creed, it says all the land in America upon which we have worked and lived for a long time. So it's not limited to. Yet, that's what we have pinpointed and say we're going to start there. We want to build upon the land there and really literally control our own destiny. Okay, that's what it's about, controlling your own destiny, meaning every aspect of life. We've said we're stepping out of this particular system. We're working on self, correcting our mind space, right? Correcting our minds. And it's an everyday thing. This is an everyday thing because remember, we have hundreds of years of conditioning, in the bloodlines conditioning, some of the most horrific things, and that's major trauma. And dealing with trauma, sometimes it makes us more hesitant in moving forward, right? So if we're wondering about why we're so hesitant in moving forward, it's because we got so much crap to deal with internally. Got to liberate yourself first before you can liberate anything outside of yourself, right? So if we're ever wondering what state of mind we're in terms of our road towards self-determination, just look at what it is that we're creating as a collective, right? Collectively, we're not focused on our self-determination, collectively speaking, right? Yet this is our birthright. This is our only way to happiness, honestly. We want to be happy. Everybody want to be happy. And that's one thing. I'm here to see Black people happy, period. And so that means whatever we got to go through and navigate to get us to that point of bliss on the planet, because that is our birthright. to be able to live in our own communities happily, raising our children, building for self, building our institutions, or whatever we deem beautiful. We don't, honestly, we have no clue once we get to working in building in terms of what it is we're going to exponentially dive and jump into as we get moving. That's the beautiful thing about it. You know, we are an active part of this creation process, you know. So that's what self-determination is. We have control over our own destiny on all aspects, physically, mentally, spiritually, psychologically. Any aspiration is coming from us, for us, by us.
Yeah. Mama Ayo, you want to add anything?
Yes, just a little bit, just to veggie back off of what Sister Sa says. Everything is right dead on point. I mean, if we're talking about human rights, everyone has the right to exist. Existing meaning that your basic needs are taken care of. You have the right to have family, education.
I think Mama Ayo, there we go. You dropped out for a second. You still here?
Can you hear me? It's a lot of crackling.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So we have the right to be married, to bury our dead, to educate our children, and to create our customs. And self-determination also means that you need to go within yourself to know that you have a culture, you have a spirituality, you have everything that you need. You have the right to have your own courting rituals, your marriage rituals, your putting your transition, your birthing. All of that is a part of a people who have a common genetic code, have a common history, have a common landmass, all of that. And it speaks, of course, to the enslaved Africans who now call themselves New Africans. We have the right, and we claimed our right in 1968, March 31st, after we came together, we talked with brothers and sisters. So Malcolm speaks about what I feel self-determination when he says this, because a lot of times we have a lot of organizations now, such as Black Lives Matters, NAACP, you have all kinds of organizations that speak to rainbow coalitions, which is not anything that I'm speaking against, but I'm talking about Malcolm speaks to what Garvey spoke about. After God, race first. And he speaks to this. That's self-determination. Race first, because he says there can be no Black-white unity until there is first Black unity. Am I right or am I wrong?
Definitely.
We cannot think of uniting with others until we are first united among ourselves. We cannot think of being acceptable to others until we have proven acceptable to ourselves. And that is where we are when we talk about New Africa, when we talk about the Black community, when we talk about being in cities and townships and the 5 states in the South. We have to present unification of self, family, community, and then, of course, our nation. Before we step out and say, okay, we love you now. That's what we're doing already. We've already said, we're loving you, we've forgiven you, we want to unite with you. What has that gotten us? What has it gotten us? We have integrated, y'all. We integrated. We bought the okie doke. We integrated. We went into their businesses. We went into their schools. We did. Some of us were tokens in the classroom, tokens in the business arena, tokens in many of our programs. that you were able to get into because the quota was 1 or 2? We've done that. Now let's do the analysis. How is that working for the community? How is that working for us? Because now we have what we call over 800,000 women who are heads of households without fathers. How's that looking for us? I yield.
Definitely. All great point. Mama, if you could come back out and come back in to see, maybe that'll fix your time because you're getting kind of choppy right now. Yeah. But I'm agreed 1,000%. As our brother Bo Money said, if I could pull this comment back up. He said, self-determination, being able to decide your own destiny. And that's important because a lot of times we've been trained and conditioned to believe that we're not worthy of certain things, but it's a universal human right that any people who has suffered long-term oppression at the hands of another group of people, we have their human right to separate from those people and to establish your own. Do for yourself. Because if you're under the rule and authority of another individual, of other individuals who do not have your best interests at heart, who are contributing to the hardship, pain, and oppression of your people, then it is common sense that you need to get away from that. It's just like if you're in an abusive relationship, you got the right to leave. You have the right to leave. You do not have to stay into a relationship that is detrimental to you.
Right.
Like in America, we do not have to stay in a relationship with a nation with a power structure that has benefited from our exploitation and continue to benefit from our exploitation. We don't have to do that. It is our right. Matter of fact, it's something we should do. You know, by one means, some people feel that, you know, we should go to Africa and create your separate thing. Some people like us feel we need to create it right here. But either way, it is our right, our natural human right. Nobody has to give us permission to do this. That's what our human right is. It's yours from birth. You know, we've been bamboozled into thinking that, well, if the white man don't allow us to do it, we can't do it.
Exactly.
And that's the part of a propaganda machine that has devastated our mindsets and prevents us from gaining true liberation. That's one of the first things that we have to free. We got to free our mind from this mindset of white supremacy. And one of the things we got to eradicate from our thinking is this belief that we got to have white validation and before something is valid. You know, that's why a lot of people kind of look at us sideways when we talk about independence. Because white people haven't said that that's a valuable option for you. But we cannot wait on white people to validate our liberation, because our liberation marks the end of their self-destructive white supremacist system.
Absolutely.
So therefore, that's why self-determination is so important. You know, if you read the Kwanzaa definition, you know, the right to create, name, think, and all of these things for ourselves instead of having other people do it for us.
Absolutely.
You know, we have to grow up. Yeah, we have to grow up and get out of this minority way of thinking. The roots of the word minority is minor. Like you're a child, not a grown-up. Well, it's time for us to grow up and be adults in the world, in the family of humanity, because we are the mothers and fathers of humanity. So it's time for us to reclaim our natural place in humanity and do for self, because we have example after example after example that anytime we've been left alone to do our own thing, whether that was on the continent before the European came to power and colonized the whole damn world, basically, or even after we were enslaved in this system of colonization and white supremacy and chattel slavery. Even after we've been indoctrinated with this mindset of white supremacy, we still were able to thrive and build our independent communities and townships. There are several of them You know, all of them were attacked by one way. Some were by policies, and some were physically by the Klan. Some were by the military army, where they dropped bombs on our people.
Absolutely.
You know, but that's what it takes to prevent us from thriving. You got to realize that. You know, sometimes we feel like we don't have the self-esteem to do it, but think of everything that has been done to prevent us from thriving, and we still thrive. You know, a lot of people look at our condition, and I always say that. They look at our condition and they say, wow, man, this is so terrible. We've got so much violence in our community. We hate each other. We're so divided, you know, but all of these things can be expected when you factor in the 400 years, 500 years of oppression and being told that you are nothing, and the gentrification and the redlining pushing us into communities that lack resources, and the infiltration and infestation of crack cocaine, and the policies, racist policies that led to the rise of the prison industrial complex and the school to prison pipeline, and the miseducation from the education system. And we can go on and on and on and on and on with everything that has happened to us. What the state of our condition of our communities is should be expected. What's not expected is the fact that we're still here, we're still strong, we're still pushing forward, and we will gain our independence. So, you know, it's like the right to self-determination is just plain and simple. Plain and simple, our human right, something that not only should be a option, it should be at the forefront of our liberation movement. And I'm gonna yield with that.
Ashe.
Yes, Ashe. And just to add to what you're saying, Brother Prophecy, and what Brother Bomani is saying being able to decide for ourselves and being able to ensure our own destiny, right? Decide it and then ensure it, you know, then ensure it, whatever that need to look like to ensure it. You understand the thing? And then in building ourselves, self, we got some mighty numbers in terms of self, right? And we need to start looking at each other as assets and as building blocks. See, because a lot of times we like to start over and recreate wheels that have already been built, y'all. It's really, really important for us to put our pieces together like a puzzle piece, right? We are already a whole nation. It's just we're scattered. Our minds is all over the place, and we putting all of our energy and our gifts and our talents, and we giving it to this wicked system of things. That's utilizing it against us time after time. We literally being used up as our own weapons against ourselves at the moment. Okay. Absolutely. This is really truly what's taking place, because the more energy that we put in, the stronger and the strong, because that's how powerful we are. Remember, Mama I always says it. We built this. We built this whole nation. We built it and are still building it and are still adding on. We just adding and adding and adding and adding, and we lost, and our community getting more and more weaker and weaker because we put all of our energy someplace else when we need to just change directions, turn it inward, look at each other as an asset, right? We so caught up in our trauma. I get it. We caught up in our trauma. Yeah, we're gonna have to work through that, okay? Because it's our demise. Like, we're looking at life or death here. We're dying. You know, and then at some point as adults, now we adults, we got to make that decision to determine for ourselves. It is our birthright. Every time we don't make the decision to build for self, we're supporting, we're in support of that which happens to us. We're in support of. So that's how important it is to make the conscious decision to say, you know what, I'm changing direction, turning in on self. I'm looking at my brother and sister as an asset. What is it? Yeah, we may not agree on a whole bunch of stuff, but you know what you real good at, and ride on that alone until, because literally sometimes it takes, not sometimes, all the time. You got to, in order to heal, you got to 100% separate yourself from that which makes you sick. So us to heal all the way, we're going to have to 100% separate us from that which makes us sick on so many different levels. We cannot expect to be well in our current system, where we're giving all of our energy and we're just getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. Hey, we got to stop doing things that don't make sense. You know, and as adults, stop talking around the issue. Let's deal with it head on.
That's right. I mean, one more thing I'll say about concerning the Black nation. A lot of people, when you hear the Black nation, they be like, "Oh, get all cringy." The reality is, the Black nation has existed ever since the system of chattel slavery existed. You know, once upon a time, we might have came from different tribes, different nations, had different languages, backgrounds, culture. But when we were all lumped into this system of chattel slavery, and we lost our history, name, or beliefs, concepts, identity, a new nation was created. Reality, regardless of whatever you want to call it, whether you want to be a part of it or not. A new nation was created. And we're all a part of that nation today, regardless to what you think you are or what you claim you are. I don't care if you're in the Nation of Islam, you're a part of the Black nation. You can be a Hebrew Israelite, you're a part of the Black nation. Rastafarians, the Church of God in Christ, and whatever else you want to call yourself. We are all a part of the Black nation. So the sooner we recognize that we are one people, regardless to what we think we are, what we claim to be, or what our belief system is. Like Brother Malcolm said, when that police pull you over, he don't ask you, are you a Muslim, a Christian, a Elf, or Hebrew Israelite, Rastafarian, 5%, whatever it is. They just see a Black man, and that's being nice, because most of the time they don't even call you a Black man or Black woman. They call you something that begins with an N. So the sooner we recognize that we are a part of this nation, and it just takes that time, that moment where we say, okay, we need to actually define our nation. We need to actually build our nation. We need to empower our nation, the better we will be. And I'm yield on that right there.
And I want us to always remember, comrades, that when we say we built this nation, it wasn't with all them huge, monstrous tractors, huge, monstrous earth movers, huge tractor trailers, huge trucks. When we say we built this by our hand, sun up, sun down, we meant that. We mean that. Because if you look up when this country was able to launch themselves into industrialization, we'd already been here 357 years, y'all. At the end of 357 years in 1883, did we have these kind of machines?
Nope.
We had weapons. They had weapons. That's why the Civil War was fought. They had weapons. They had cannonballs. They had very rudimentary types of weapons. So what do you think about the tools? It was our blood, our sweat, our labor. That's why we had a very low death rate. Our men did not last way up into the hundreds. They would work like cattle until they couldn't work no more, and they had to lay themselves down. The same for our women. So let us not get it twisted when we say, you think you had all these big old cranes to help you build all these skyscrapers? Those buildings were built with black hands, black labor. We had to remove trees. We had to dig the soil. We had to till. What did we have but a cow and some kind of rudimentary instrument tool at the time? So let's not get it twisted. It wasn't until Norbert Rillier, he came with the sugar. Lewis Latimer, somebody came and did the sugar processing. Garrett T. Morgan came with the stoplight. There are plenty. Sarah, what is her name? Sarah created the ironing board. Come on. Let's be real serious with this. Then, of course, you had, was it Lewis Latimer that had the filament to the light bulb? So we got to be really careful. This is Black History 365. We must know what our people invented. Some of them did not look as dark as us. Some of them were highly melanated. Some of them were, because you know the stories. So when we say self-determining, it is a matter of, do you want it for your seed, your children's children, or do you want to be in the same condition, the same aggressiveness in the community, the same hatred that we perpetuate on each other, instead of love and light and the rebuilding of family, we've got to ask ourselves that. And if you're the one that doesn't care or is not interested, move over to the side, because there are some people that care and they want freedom. They want real freedom. They want a chance to be free on a land, in a space where we wake up in the morning and we see beautiful melanated people smiling at each other, instead of being in the hood and everybody frowning at each other, and the slightest little thing you say to one another, you finna get cut, juked, or shot. We're trying to build a new nation. A new nation. And I yield.
Definitely. And with that, we have a Black Power file that's gonna go along with the theme of everything that we've been talking about today. Our comrade, our brother, our freedom fighter, ancestor, brother Malcolm, Malik El Haj, El Shabazz. As we know, tomorrow is our New Year's, marks the anniversary of his assassination, which will be officially 58 ADM. And we'll be right back with our Black Power file right after this. This is the new African Perspective, y'all. Free the land.
America, full of promises. Time to cash them in. You run from it quick. You never keep your word. I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb. Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land, not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to win the hearts and minds of the people, but for the actual land and the resources within the land. So it is safe to say that land is the foundation to all freedom. So if we truly want to be free, then our struggle is for land. Free the land. Leaders, scholars, freedom fighters, all those soldiers who've been struggling for the liberation of black people. This is the Black Power File.
We are oppressed. Right. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you? And I, for one, as a Muslim, believe that the white man is intelligent enough. If he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromise and sweet talk. Stop sweet talking it. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down.
And that was our brother Malcolm X, the father, where we get our ideology from. It was kind of one of his speeches, but there are many speeches on YouTube that you can go check out. And like I said, back in the early 60s, this brother was speaking in terms on things that are relevant right now today. He articulated excuse me, the need for us to have self-determination. He spoke on our introduction to the radio show of the Voices of New Africa. We have a speech where he just basically says that the United States should set aside a portion of this land for independent, sovereign Black nation for Black people.
Mhm.
So the brother, our elder, our ancestor, was so on point with his analysis, with his politics, and everything he advocated for. What do y'all think about our great brother Malcolm X?
A hero, of course, one of our heroes, founding fathers. He made, of course, he's definitely a martyr because he made the ultimate sacrifice, and he knew that he was going to make that sacrifice. And yet I feel like in the midst of it all, he still built his family, still had his children, he's still married, he still participated in nation building, and definitely he stood for being as righteous as possible. He actually was the epitome of what we say, making everybody understand that he believed in the righteousness of this struggle. One of the Kwanzaa principles, to believe in the righteousness of our leaders, our teachers, our parents, and the righteousness of our struggle. And he never, I don't think he ever backed down until he took his last breath. Ashe.
Definitely.
Yeah, Ashe. And it's an honor, right? It's an honor to continue that legacy. It's an honor to stand on his shoulders, being one of the shoulders to stand on to continue the work, because it's our job to actualize those words. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's like committing treason when we don't, because it's so expensive when we don't. It's extremely expensive. This brother lost his life amongst many, 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 many endless many. So it's very expensive for us to not continue the legacy, to not put our whole heart and soul toward liberating ourselves, because we deserve it. We deserve this is what we deserve. It's a righteous struggle. I want to live peaceful, peaceful, and live peaceable on the land, right? Amongst my family. That's just only right. I'm not asking for anything that's just ridiculous, huh? I don't want to suffer at the hands of these wicked beasts anymore. That's only logical. You understand what I'm saying? So in order for that to come into fruition, we have to execute. We have to execute that which we say. And it's an honor to stand on his shoulders and to continue the work,
Absolutely.
for that the loss of his life was not in vain.
Definitely. Brother Malcolm, I mean, it's really, like, what can you say about the brother? I mean, it was like he was just so ahead of his time. His analysis just always blows me away. With, like, you look at the average Negro leader today and you compare him to a brother Malcolm, and like what he speaks on back in 1962, 63 was more relevant to a lot of so-called leaders or what they talk about today. He articulated and analyzed the system. And he basically, told us that, we need our own. He said he had the intellect to say, he, even though he's a Muslim, before he's a Muslim, he's an African. And he said that we should put our religion to the side when we come to the liberation, because it does not matter what our background is or what we call ourselves, because ultimately we're all Africans. And we're struggling for the liberation of African people. So, I mean, he's like I agree with my brother Obafemi. He said his autobiography changed my life. Um, Same here. When I was in high school, that's one of the first books that I actually read was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I realized I was like, man, everybody talking about Dr. King. I'm a Malcolm X guy, and you find that perspective growing. A lot of, black people nowadays, even though Martin Luther King is pushed in front of your face and everybody's, giving a holiday, in much respect to King, it's no disrespect to King. But a lot of black people, if it's not most, but a lot of black people say, well, you know what, I kind of side with Malcolm's, philosophy because he wasn't just saying we should bend over and take it. We should fight back. We should stand up. We should be men. We should be women. We should be strong. We have the right to do that. We have self-esteem. We should not just roll over and accept anything that is given to us. So yeah, that's our comrade. That's our ancestor, our freedom fighter, the father of our struggle. Go to some of these comments from our people out there, and thank everybody for joining us and participating in the conversation. When the show goes off, continue the conversation with your family and everybody else, because it don't just stop with a program. It continues. But Freedom Power says the average lifespan during convict leasing was 10 years. Preach it, Mama Ayo. Straight up manual labor. Without our labor and ingenious, this wicked system would collapse, or I should say, not exist. And brother, you are absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Convict leasing program, that's a period of history that's neglected. We don't talk about it a lot. You talk about what happened in enslavement, but we don't talk about right after slavery, chattel slavery ended. They basically just evolved to another form, which was called convict leasing program, where they would lock us up for just existing. And if you were locked up, that means that slave owners or landowners could get you and lease you out and work you. And that was in many cases worse than slavery because they had no incentive of making sure that you stayed healthy. At least on the plantation, they wanted you to be healthy enough so you could be enslaved as long as possible. They could get as much work out of you. So they didn't want you to just die. They wanted you to, work you hard so you can, be healthy enough to work hard tomorrow and next week and next year. But under the convict leasing program, they could work you till you die, bury you, and then just go get another inmate and bring you back and work them to death. So it was like that was a very brutal system, a very brutal time in history that we don't talk much about, and our ancestors, endured that. Let me see, brother Overfemi was responding to when you was talking about when Mama Ayo was talking about we did not have the technology to build things. We did this physically manual labor ourselves. And brother Overfemi said we were the technology that built this country.
That's
definitely,
right. That's
definitely,
right.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, and Melly Queen says the black codes, and black codes still exist. The black codes still exist. We're still getting punished and executed right there on the streets by the slave patrollers, which they call them the police now. Even if some of the slave patrollers, just like some of the overseers, were black. You got some of the slave patrollers who look just like us, and they're still doing the job of the plantation owner. And the plantation owner is the system of white supremacy, oppression, capitalism, and imperialism. Same thing. Different day, same thing. So yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we've been on for about an hour and a half almost. I think we did justice to our brother Malcolm. Well, if you can do justice, because he's such a big and important individual. I don't know if an hour and a half show can really do justice for an ancestor like that. But it's about time for us to go and wrap it up. Y'all got anything y'all wanna say and share with the people before we get out of here?
Still, just continue to remember, we say 365 Black. Everything, every day, some type of conversation. Tomorrow, on the anniversary of Malcolm's assassination. You already know, you and I know, it was fostered by the CIA, FBI, COINTELPRO, because at the same time, they were killing important leaders in the Caribbean, in Africa, and here as well, because trust me, they were linking up. Malcolm's story is not an isolated event. It was a series of events that broke the Black Power movement. Trust me. So he is one of many, but he is we're ringing the bell for him, because he made the ultimate sacrifice. It affected his family, his children. It affected the movement. When we say the liberation movement, it was a blow. And yet, because of the work that he did, because of the love that he did generate for his people loved him back, and they took up the baton. You know, we have a saying in Africa, you can kill the messenger, but you cannot kill the message. So that is why we're here. That is why we're standing 55 years, 55 years once we hit March 31st. So here we are. We're still standing. We still, ringing his bell. We're still beating the gong for Brother Malcolm.
Yes, indeed. And then I would also like to encourage all those that are listening that want to get activated and possibly are already active in terms of what it is that you're doing. Link up with us. We have to create a united front in terms of what we're doing. And if you're interested in becoming a part of the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa and want more information, of course, you can utilize our resource at pg-rna.com. And look, we got to start building, become a part of a unit, work, study, and training unit, right? And let's get to work. We have so much to do, and we need all of our brilliant, bright minds. It's an everyday task, every day, chipping away.
Exactly.
Definitely. Got to get just closer and closer to the goal, ultimate goal. And I'll just end by this. If you're in the Memphis area this Saturday, y'all come hang with the Republic of New Africa. We are having probably the beginning of the first of our annual Black History program. And we're going to have a program from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, and then be jumping straight into a community panel discussion, and we're going to be coming up with solutions, talking about how can we keep our community safe from both internal and external threats. It's going to be serious, and we're serious about really taking control of our communities, because we got to deal with the crime situation. We got to deal with the police situation. And honestly, both of them are connected. They're both from the same roots, from living under a system of white supremacy where we have self-hate for ourselves. So therefore, and live in communities that lack resources. So therefore, crime is too high. And combined with this same system of white supremacy, in order to maintain this power structure, you have police who are not there to serve and protect us, but to brutalize and make sure that they maintain the status quo. It's all from the same origins, from the same system. So join us this week, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock at the McFarling Community Center, 4955 Cottonwood Road. If you're in the Memphis area, IDB Wells City, make sure you're there, and we'll have a good old time. We're going to entertain, have a good time, but we're going to get down to some serious solutions, y'all. We're going to create programs, initiatives, and things that will directly affect the people on that day. We're trying to unite and have it a collective effort. It's going to happen either way, but we're just trying to make sure that everybody can get involved in doing this. I am Brother Prophecy with Sama Odd, Madam President Sama Odd, and Madam Vice President Mama Ayo Deli. This is the New African Perspective. See y'all again next week. Thank you all. We love y'all. Free the land.
By any all means necessary.
Our communities are under attack. Attacked by both internal and external enemy. Crime in our community. Police brutality. We can continue to complain about the problem. Stop complaining. Or we can actually do something about it. Let's do something. something, y'all. Join us February 25th in Memphis, Tennessee at the McFarland Community Center as we work together to take back our community. We're kicking things off at 1 o'clock p.m. with a short Black History program. We're going to entertain, educate, and shine the spotlight on some of our brightest youth. Then it's time to get down to business with a community panel discussion. We're dealing with the topic of how can we keep our community safe from both internal and external threats. That's Saturday, February 25th in Memphis, Tennessee at the McFarland Community Center, 4955 Cottonwood Road. Let's stop talking about the problem and start being about the solution. Let's be about it.